Alright there guys, this is Chaos back again. So quickly after the release of the last video that I made, I know the gear was ridiculous. So what I've done is I've scoured up some of my old stuff and switched some things around to try to give, I would say, a better sense of how mediocre gear, at least to today's standards, would fare with this build. Some of my gear is still going to be, I would say, top notch for a lot of Act 1, Act 2 guys out there, but honestly speaking, if you're with that gear, there's not going to be a magical build out there that's going to, let you progress in 3 and basically face roll everything. So what I've done is I haven't ran with this and I haven't tested it, but I'm going to try my best to give you guys a rundown of how it looks like with lower end gear. So I've lowered my crit chance, of course, from 46% I believe at first to 35, so I lost a whole 9%. That's going to be pretty big because I'm afraid at this point, and I've built gear sets before that have given me more crit chance even at like a budget of $4 million. So this is really, gimping this build right now. That's going to tie into Ancient Spear's crit chance, which will lower the amount of, I would say, cooldown reduction that I'll get. I lowered my DPS from 92,000 to like 44. At the same time though, I'm not getting any more life on hit. In fact, I get my life on hit by changing out all my Leorics, all my legendary stuff to 2.8. So this honestly is going to be my biggest factor of not being successful with this, because I'm not getting the life I need per damage. Now this build is based around area of effect damage, and I do a lot of it. And the problem with it now is that when I lower my DPS without upping my lifesteal, I'm going to be gimped in my heals. And hopefully Bloodlust is still going to be good enough to hold me through. If not, I still have Ignore Pain. I'm just going to probably have to pop this more often, which shouldn't be a problem. But you can see my armor, my resist, this is all attainable stuff. Don't look at individually what my gear is. Look at it as a whole, and I've basically built, similar gear sets to this prior, and I'm even going to run without any gems in my chest. So this is what I switched out. I have an old Andario, so it's not as good as the new one, but then again it doesn't have the weakness either. I've switched out to my non-trifecta resistance gloves. I switched out to my lower strength armor focused shoulders. Of course the belt I switched out, the rings I switched out, so no more overpowered, crit chance, crit damage rings. This is just full resistance rings here, a little more tanky. I switched out all my speed stuff, so now I'm running at regular speed. And of course, this is my old 1.0.3 two-hander that I'm running with. It's one of my better ones. I'm running at 44k. Like I said, I don't know what the results are. I'm gonna probably pick one of the easier parts of this act to run this build with, and that's gonna be the depths, because everything is funnel kind of like in a wall setting. So you see there, I still got a good crit there, hitting 3 guys. I'm just afraid now I can't continually chain it. It wasn't a necessity before, but it sure in the heck does help build the Fury. As you can see, without the 24% run speed, frozen orbs and the like is going to be a little bit harder. But generally speaking, you're just going to have to pay a little bit more attention. And coming from what my gear set was immediately to this, is going to be a little bit of a learning curve too. So you're going to have to excuse me if I'm not generating the Fury that I need, or I'm not getting the crits that I need to continually do this here. So I popped Ignore Pain there, just because I'm still getting used to this new gear. Coming from where I'm coming from, it's a big change. So see, what I always monitor is how much Fury I have left after a fight. And that gives you a good gauge of what you can use during a fight, what you can't use. It gives you a good gauge of how much left over you have from the last one. You can kind of go into the next fight with some kind of an expectation. Hopefully we run into a mob here, because that'll be the real test, elite of some sort. Oh, that was not good. I was just a lag there. As you can see, I'm still doing about 50k damage non-crit, and of course I'm just going to go ahead and pop Ignore Pain there again. And my crits right now are a lot lower. I've gone from, what, 400 something to 243. Once again, really obtainable numbers. Now, when you have lower end gear, this build is going to focus more back into Seismic Slam. So you're going to use that as the bulk of your attack. And with the decrease in run speed, actually, it's going to give you more time in between fights to recharge or cry in the lights. So you don't have to worry too much about, you know, cooldowns in the lights. But, you know, this is why I don't present builds this way. It's because the progression is so much slower. In the same time that I'll get through one level here, I'll probably go through like 2-3 levels of area creator with my full build. And, you know, for somebody to gauge how well the build works, sometimes you do have to go ahead and show them with endgame gear, because that's showing the max potential. Guessing that part is a lot harder than guessing what it'll run like with lower end gear. Now, quill beasts are a pain because they do hurt a ton. If you are using this spear to pull things into you, make sure that you are doing it, especially if they're like quill beasts, with the rend ready. If you're not rending them after, they can one-shot you in sync, because spear is an interrupt, and when they get interrupted, what happens is that they will basically go ahead and they will sync their animation of attack up, and once you are done spearing them, they will hit you all at once, and there's really no delay between their landing after the spear and their attack, so you gotta be careful. I think this is what a nightmare mob. So same thing applies. I'm gonna pop over or ignore pain there. You just want to go ahead and spear them into you, get a good rend on them, and of course know your position. That was a bad idea to go into the little room. See, the build is not as fast, but I mean it still works the same general way, especially if you have the Enchantress, which always helps with the confusion buff. Just some of your harder fights now would be, of course, later part of Area Crater, but once again, I don't really think you should be running anything two-handed for the meantime if you're not over-geared in armor, because it's such a demanding build. Your attack speed is lower, you can't rely on life on hit, you have to generate large amounts of DPS to use life steal. It is worse off than dual wielding, but dual wielding at the highest end is more expensive, you know, than a two-handed build. That's by far. And losing the attack speed right now is also a hinder to me, purely from the fact that sometimes you can get hit stunned. And the irony right now is that this is a reflect mob, but because of my lower damage, I'm not dying as much to them as I should. So even with the 2.8%, I'm actually doing quite well, surprisingly. And of course, it's not the hardest mob, and everybody knows that. But then again, it's not a white mob either, so it, you know, goes without saying. At least it's working. I could probably lower my gear even more. I'm pretty comfortable where I'm at right now, but I would like to fight maybe a harder mob just to find out. And I've had my crit up to as high as, like, say 53%. The only thing what it is it, I don't know, it seems, at least from time to time, you could chain like, you know, 10 spears in a row with that. I don't think it's necessary. That's why I dropped it back down to where you see it now. I think it's more important that you could take a few hits versus, you know, just constantly critting and regaining your advantage there. Okay, so these guys are gonna probably be pretty annoying. What you'll want to do with these guys is use any advantage you can with white mobs and heal. Oh, that's not a good idea. That, I forgot about the floor fire there, so that's not fair. And it's gonna be quite a walk to get back there. Let's just go to another portion. I really do want to fight those guys. Maybe I'll. Okay, so I saved you guys the agony of me walking all the way back, but unfortunately, because I'm gonna have to leap over here to get to the mob, I might end up, well, maybe not, maybe they'll come to me. I was about to say that if I was gonna leap over the wall, I would have spent one of my cooldowns just on mobility, and that would put me in a bad position. Yeah, see, with the move speed, like in my last video, I recommend at least a 12%. It just helps with positioning, because in this build, it is so important to get a good position on where you're slamming, and also where your spear is going to be. So you definitely want to at least get something. Going with nothing, it's going to make your life a lot harder with a two-hander, especially with low attack speed. With a mace, axes will be a little bit better. I've grown accustomed to two-handed weapons, so it's not a big deal to me. But this makes your aim of spear that much more critical, to basically, you know, hit on target, because it will help a lot with the fighting mobs, goblins, and the likes. There's just no way for you on foot speed alone to catch up to a goblin now. Yeah, as you can see, I would have to pop ignore pain quite a bit, so you're gonna have to watch out for, you know, after you ignore pain, venturing into the next room. If you find a mob there, you're just gonna have to remember that's another 30 seconds before you get it back. But outside of the floor fire, I could have easily survived that Ripper pack. That I don't think was a problem. You could rotate ignore pain with, you know, leap. A lot of tank barbs are accustomed to that already, so if you have that kind of a background, that should be second nature to you. And, you know, fights like that you're used to. Just the difference now is you get skills that basically do so much damage that you're not going to fight them for 5 minutes. It's going to maybe be about, I don't know, what was it, like a minute maybe, if I didn't die. Which is still acceptable. My original bulldozer bar build killed things pretty quickly, even to my standard at that time, at about a minute, until of course you compare to like whirlwind barbs, and 5 seconds becomes a standard at that point. So let's go to 3 or work our way back, and maybe I could try some area crater. See, when you get knocked back, it's a pain. Just purely for the fact that when they do it, it cancels out your animations for most things. Like that. That's annoying. That's where attack speed would help, and that's where basically run speed would help. When you get back into the fight quicker. I didn't need to, but I popped ignore pain there just because there's other quills shooting me from the back. Yeah, you see, this is extremely slow, and of course this is not the optimum build for this. This is for, most of my gear came from my bulldozer bar build where resistances were more important than offense, if you guys remember those old videos of mine. So you know, charge takes advantage of slow weapons because there's no wind up animation. And I'm gonna have to probably cut it short here because my kid's awake, so I'll see you guys next time. But you know, hopefully from this video you could see what we have done here is to achieve lower tier gear but still work the build in. So you know, if you have any questions, feel free to give me a question of any kind, and I'll do what I can to answer anything like this video here. Thank you very much. Bye bye. Well, I basically promised that I was going to do a little bit of Area Crater 1, so let's go take a look at how this works, because I'm actually kind of curious myself. Without having to spend money in the auction house, I'm more than willing to try different sets of gear to see, you know, what the results are.
More fury. Need more time.
That's a waste. And I tend to hold shift a lot when I'm, you know, clicking, so that happens from time to time when I don't release it early enough. I'm noticing a big, I would say, delay in my rend for reasons unknown. I guess it's just an